At a dazzling charity gala, wealthy philanthropist James Harrington secretly cherishes his younger lover, artist Lila Green, while publicly praising her work. Their stolen glances hint at a dangerous affair. Unbeknownst to them, James's partner, Clara, overhears a conversation that will shatter their world and ignite a deadly conflict. James Harrington was a man of many faces. To the public, he was a charming philanthropist, admired for his generosity and grace. He hosted grand events, raised millions for essential causes, and smiled in every photograph. People saw him as a beacon of hope in the community. But behind the smiles and applause, James carried a heavy burden. His past was filled with shadows. Years ago, he made choices that haunted him. He lost friends and nearly lost himself. The wealth and success he enjoyed came at a price. Deep down, he craved something more than just money and status. He wanted passion, he wanted to feel alive again. That's when he met Lila Green. She was a breath of fresh air, full of life and creativity. In her presence, James felt his heart race. She challenged him, inspired him, and made him feel young again. Their secret meetings became a refuge from his polished but empty life. But with every stolen moment, he felt the weight of his deception grow heavier. Clara Harrington was James's wife. Strong-willed and sharp-minded, she dedicated her life to their shared dreams. She had helped build his empire, standing by him through thick and thin. Clara was no stranger to ambition. She worked hard to maintain their social status and protect her reputation. Yet beneath her confident exterior, Clara felt an unsettling void. She sensed something was wrong. James's late nights and secretive phone calls made her uneasy. The whispers of doubt grew louder, but she pushed them aside, focused on their goals. When she finally discovered the truth about James's affair with Lila, it felt like a knife to her heart. Betrayal stung deeply. Clara was not one to back down, though. She was determined to fight for her life's work and legacy. She knew she had to confront him, to protect what they had built together. This fight ignited a fierce determination within her. Lila Green was a talented artist, struggling to find her place in the world. Her paintings were vibrant, filled with raw emotion. But success had eluded her, leaving her yearning for recognition and stability. She worked odd jobs to pay her bills, dreaming of the day her art would shine in galleries. When she met James, she felt a spark. He saw her talent and believed in her. Their relationship ignited her passion for art, pushing her to create more. But Lila was unaware of the complexities of James's life. She didn't know about his marriage or the darkness lurking in his past. Despite her independence, Lila longed for love and validation. The thrill of being with James filled her with hope. She imagined a future where her art would flourish and love would conquer all. But as their relationship deepened, the shadows of James's life began to close in, threatening everything she held dear. As James juggled his desires, Clara's resolve grew stronger. Meanwhile, Lila remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. Each character faced their own struggles, driven by love, ambition, and betrayal. In a world where secrets lingered just below the surface, their lives were about to collide in ways none of them could foresee. What happens when love turns into betrayal? Can one woman take back control? Clara could no longer ignore the signs. The late nights and secret phone calls gnawed at her. One evening, she confronted James in their lavish home. "Are you cheating on me?" she demanded, her voice shaking. James looked shocked. "No, Clara, how could you think that?" He denied it, but his eyes betrayed him. Clara felt a rush of anger. She had trusted him completely, and now he lied to her face. The tension between them grew thicker. Clara's heart raced. She wanted to scream, to throw something. Instead, She took a deep breath. "I know about Lila," she said coldly. James went pale. Clara watched as his facade crumbled. While this drama unfolded, Lila dreamed of her first gallery show. She painted with joy, creating colorful pieces that reflected her heart. She imagined people admiring her art, praising her talent. In her mind, the world was bright and full of promise. Little did she know about the storm brewing in the shadows. As Clara learned more about the affair, her feelings of betrayal turned into fury. She felt powerless and desperate. In that moment, a dark plan formed in her mind. She decided to gather evidence of James's betrayal. Clara would not let him ruin her life. She started collecting texts and photos, determined to use them against both James and Lila. The idea of blackmail gave her a sense of control. It was a dangerous game, but Clara was willing to play. The stakes were high, and she was ready for a fight. What happens when love is hidden in the shadows? Can passion survive in secret? James and Lila shared a love that sparkled like fireworks but hid in darkness. Their meetings were secret, stolen moments away from prying eyes. When they were together, the world faded. They laughed, dreamed, and created a bond that felt unbreakable. In the quiet corners of cafes, they would sit close, their fingers brushing against each other. Lila's eyes sparkled with excitement as she spoke about her art. "I want to create something beautiful," she told James. He watched her, mesmerized. He believed in her talent. She inspired him to feel alive again. At times, they escaped to secluded parks. There, they shared whispers and sweet kisses. Lila painted in the sun, while James admired her every stroke. He loved how her art reflected her spirit. It was vibrant and raw, just like their connection. In those moments, nothing else mattered. But as they enjoyed their secret, shadows lurked. James was still married. Clara remained unaware, busy with her own plans. James felt the weight of his choices. He wanted Lila in his life, yet he was tied to his past. The excitement of their romance danced with guilt. Lila was determined to succeed as an artist. She worked hard, pouring her emotions onto the canvas. She dreamed of her first major exhibit. "This will change everything," she said to herself. She imagined people admiring her work, praising her talent. But in the back of her mind, she knew her relationship with James fueled her creativity. As the day of the exhibit approached, Lila painted with passion. Each brush stroke became a piece of her heart. She used colors that told their story, the joy, the excitement, the longing. But she also felt fear. Would James leave Clara for her? Would their love survive the outside world? The exhibit day finally arrived. Lila was both excited and nervous. She stood in front of her artwork, feeling a mix of pride and anxiety. Would people understand her? Would they see the love she poured into each piece? James attended, proud yet troubled. He watched as Lila smiled and spoke with guests. He admired her from a distance, feeling torn. He wanted to shout that she was his muse, but fear held him back. As Lila mingled, she caught sight of James's face. His eyes shone with admiration, but she sensed his internal conflict. She wondered if he truly wanted to be with her, or if he was just a man caught in a web of lies. The night was magical, but it also felt heavy. Lila's art received praise, but her heart ached with uncertainty. In that moment, she realized that love in secret could not last forever. As the crowd buzzed around her, Lila made a silent promise. She would not let fear hold her back. She would fight for her dreams, and if that meant confronting James about their future, she was ready. The fire of her passion burned bright, but so did the danger of their hidden relationship. What happens when secrets are exposed? Can love survive the truth? The night of Lila's gallery opening was electric. People admired her art, laughter filled the air, and excitement buzzed everywhere. But in the middle of the celebration, Clara arrived. She stood in the doorway, eyes sharp and determined. Clara had come for a reason. As Lila chatted with guests, she suddenly felt a chill. She turned and saw Clara walking toward her. Clara's face was tense and Lila's heart raced. She sensed trouble. "Can we talk?" Clara asked, her voice cold. Lila nodded, feeling a wave of fear wash over her. They stepped away from the crowd into a quiet corner of the gallery. Clara wasted no time. "I know about you and James," she said firmly. Lila's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Lila asked, her voice shaking. She had hoped to keep her relationship with James hidden, but Clara's gaze was fierce. "I know about the affair. You think I wouldn't find out?" Lila felt trapped. Clara continued, "You think this is a game? I won't let you ruin my life. I have evidence of everything." Lila's mind raced. The weight of Clara's words sank in. She realized how risky her love with James had become. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Lila pleaded. "I love him." But Clara wasn't moved. "Love doesn't matter when you destroy a marriage. You need to understand what you've done." Lila felt tears sting her eyes. She never wanted to hurt anyone. Clara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I can end your career before it even starts." "You think this gallery will save you? I can ruin you." Lila felt a wave of panic. She had fought hard for this moment, and now it felt like it was slipping away. Desperate, Lila rushed to find James after Clara left. She found him standing alone, looking lost. "James, we need to talk," she said urgently. "Clara knows everything." James's face went pale. "What? How?" Lila explained the confrontation. His expression turned dark. "I thought I could keep it hidden. I never wanted this to happen," he said, shaking his head. Lila felt her heart break. "What do we do now? I can't let her ruin my art. I can't lose everything." She felt panic rise inside her. James looked away, torn. "I need to protect my reputation," he said quietly. "If Clara goes public, it could destroy me. But I also don't want to lose you." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "You have to choose. We can't keep hiding. I can't live in fear." She wanted him to fight for their love, but she could see the struggle in his eyes. James felt trapped. He loved Lila, but he also had a life to protect. He wanted to be with her, but the thought of losing everything terrified him. "I need time to think," he finally said. Lila felt despair wash over her. "Time? What does that mean? We don't have time." She felt helpless. The walls were closing in. The future she had dreamed of was now a dark cloud, threatening to crush her. As she looked into James's eyes, she realized the truth. Their love was now tangled in lies and danger. The world around them faded as they stood in silence, each grappling with the weight of what lay ahead. They had to face Clara, and the truth was no longer a secret. The art show was buzzing with excitement. Guests admired Lila's paintings, and the atmosphere felt electric. But tension was thick behind the scenes. Clara had been waiting for this moment. She felt a mix of anger and determination as she spotted James and Lila together. As Clara approached, her heart raced. She could not hold back any longer. "Lila!" she shouted, causing heads to turn. Lila looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice shaky. Clara stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "I came to show you who's really in charge," she said. James stepped in, sensing the storm brewing. "Clara, let's talk about this," he urged, trying to keep the peace. But Clara was done being calm. "I know about your little affair, Lila," she hissed. "You think you can just take what's mine? I won't let you ruin my life." Lila felt her stomach drop. The room felt small and suffocating. "Clara, please, this is my moment," Lila pleaded. "I worked hard for this show, don't ruin it." But Clara shook her head, her voice cold. "I plan to destroy your career. Everyone will know the truth about you." James felt caught in the middle. "Clara, this isn't right," he said, trying to intervene. But Clara's anger had reached its peak. "Stay out of this, James," she shouted. In that moment, Lila felt fear and anger mix inside her. "You can't threaten me," she said defiantly. Clara stepped closer, fists clenched. "Watch me," she sneered. Suddenly, everything escalated. Lila pushed Clara, feeling desperate. "Get away from me," she yelled. Clara stumbled, but didn't back down. In a moment of rage, she lunged at Lila, and James moved to separate them. But in the chaos, Clara lost her balance. She fell backward, hitting her head against a sharp edge of the display. Silence filled the room. Lila's heart raced as she rushed to Clara's side. "Clara, are you okay?" she cried, panic rising. James knelt beside Clara, fear in his eyes. "Call an ambulance!" he shouted, his voice shaky. But as they looked at Clara, they realized something was wrong. She was unconscious. The guests stared, shocked and confused. The lively art show turned into a nightmare. Lila felt her world shatter. "What have we done?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. James felt helpless. He looked at Lila, then back at Clara. "This can't be happening," he said, voice trembling. They were both in shock, grappling with the weight of what had just occurred. As the sirens approached, Lila and James stood together, feeling the consequences of their actions. The truth was now tangled in tragedy. The vibrant night turned dark, and their lives changed forever. They had not just lost Clara, they had lost themselves in that moment of rage. In the aftermath, Lila felt crushed. Her art, once a symbol of hope, now felt tainted. James's reputation was in ruins. They both knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The brutal reality of their choices haunted them as they faced an uncertain future. The night of Clara's death changed everything. The police arrived quickly, their sirens echoing through the once celebratory gallery. They moved in with serious expressions, asking questions and gathering evidence. James and Lila felt a wave of dread wash over them. "Where were you when it happened?" an officer asked James. His heart raced. I was right here," he stammered, trying to keep his story straight. Lila stood nearby, feeling lost. She had never imagined this would happen. As the officers took notes, Lila felt guilt consume her. She had pushed Clara. "What will they think?" she whispered to James. He grabbed her hand tightly. "We have to stay calm," he urged. "We need to tell them the truth." But as they spoke to the police, their stories began to unravel. Lila's mind raced with fear. What if they found out about the affair? What if they thought she had done it on purpose? The weight of the world felt heavy on her shoulders. The media caught wind of the incident almost immediately. News crews swarmed the gallery, cameras flashing and microphones ready. Headlines read, "Philanthropist's wife dies in tragic incident," and "Artist linked to scandal." The frenzy grew by the hour. James's philanthropic work, once admired, was now under scrutiny. People began to question his character. Was he the perfect husband, or was he hiding dark secrets? "This could ruin everything," he muttered, pacing anxiously. Lila watched from the sidelines as reporters shouted questions. They wanted answers. They wanted a story. "What will happen to my art?" she worried aloud. Her dreams felt like they were crumbling. The media painted her as the villain, and she felt trapped. Days passed, but the frenzy only grew. Clara's death became a sensation. People spoke of betrayal, jealousy, and tragedy. Social media exploded with opinions. Friends, family, and strangers all weighed in. Lila read the comments, feeling sick to her stomach. James Harrington's dark past revealed, one article claimed. Did the artist cause this tragedy? Another headline suggested. Lila felt her heart race with every new post. The whispers grew louder, and she feared for her future. As the investigation continued, the police dug deeper. They interviewed friends, family, and anyone who knew Clara. Each person added to the tangled web of secrets. Lila felt like a puppet in a game she didn't want to play. One evening, the police called Lila in for further questioning. She sat in the small room, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. "We need to know everything about your relationship with James," an officer said, "and about Clara." Lila took a deep breath. She had to be honest. "I loved James, but I never meant for any of this to happen," she explained. Her voice trembled as she recounted the events leading up to Clara's death. As she spoke, she could see the officers scribbling notes. Their expressions were serious, and she feared what they would conclude. Would they see her as a victim, or would they blame her for the tragedy? In the midst of it all, Lila felt utterly alone. The fallout from Clara's death affected everyone involved. James faced public scrutiny, and Lila felt the pressure of the world watching her every move. Their lives would never be the same, and the path ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger. With each passing day, they braced for the truth to come out, knowing it could shatter everything they held dear. The day came when Lila's world turned upside down. She sat in her small apartment, trying to cope with the chaos. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. Her heart raced. She opened it to find police officers standing there, serious and grim. "Lila Green, you are under arrest for the death of Clara Harrington," one officer said. Lila felt her breath catch. "What? No, I didn't do anything," she shouted, panic rising in her chest. The officers stepped inside, handcuffing her. They explained that there was circumstantial evidence against her. Witnesses claimed to have seen her and Clara arguing at the gallery. Lila's mind raced. How could this happen? She hadn't meant for anything to go wrong. As they led her away, she caught a glimpse of the community outside. People had gathered, some holding signs in support of her, others shouted for justice for Clara. The crowd was divided, and Lila felt like a target. News of her arrest spread quickly. James watched from his office, feeling helpless. He had always wanted to protect Lila, but now he faced his own troubles. Reports of his past began to surface. Stories of his former business dealings, scandals, and relationships re-emerged. People questioned his integrity and character. "Is James Harrington hiding something?" one headline blared. The pressure mounted as the media turned its attention to him. Friends called, asking if he was involved in Clara's death. James felt trapped. He had to defend himself while also trying to support Lila. At the same time, Lila sat in a cold holding cell, feeling lost. Her mind raced with thoughts of James. Would he stand by her? Would he tell the truth? Lila felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Outside, the community continued to divide. Some people believed in Lila's innocence. They knew her as a talented artist. Full of passion, they argued that Clara's death was an accident. Others, however, called for justice, insisting that Lila was to blame. "She was jealous. She wanted to take everything from Clara," one woman shouted. As the days passed, Lila's case gained more attention. People discussed it at coffee shops, on social media, and at dinner tables. The tension grew, and Lila felt the impact everywhere. Her lawyer visited her, discussing the evidence. "It's not looking good, Lila. We need to show you're innocent," he said. Lila listened, feeling the weight of despair. She had to find a way to prove her innocence. Meanwhile, James tried to piece together what had happened. He reached out to Lila's lawyer, wanting to help. "I need to be there for her," he insisted. The lawyer agreed, knowing that James's testimony could change things. The night before Lila's arraignment, James sat alone, thinking of Clara. He felt guilt wash over him. He wished he could turn back time and change everything. The truth hung heavily in the air, and he knew he had to come forward with what he knew. The next day, Lila appeared in court, nervous and scared. The room buzzed with reporters and spectators. She felt eyes on her, judging and whispering. James sat in the back, ready to support her. As the judge entered, Lila took a deep breath. This was only the beginning. She had to fight for her life and her dreams, even if the world seemed against her. In that moment, Lila vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. What happens when love is put on trial? Can the truth survive in a courtroom full of secrets? The courtroom was packed with people. Lila sat at the front, her heart pounding. The atmosphere felt heavy with tension. Today was the start of her trial. She knew this was her chance to prove her innocence. As the trial began, the prosecutor stood up. "Lila Green is accused of causing Clara Harrington's death," he said firmly. The words hung in the air, and Lila felt her stomach drop. The prosecutor painted a picture of her as a jealous artist, desperate for fame. Next, he turned to James. "Mr. Harrington, can you tell us about your relationship with Lila?" he asked. James took a deep breath. He knew this would be tough. "Lila and I loved each other, but it was complicated," he replied. The tension in the room grew. The prosecutor probed deeper. "And what about your past dealings in the art world? Some say you were involved in shady practices," he questioned. James's face tightened. He had worked hard to build his reputation, and now it felt like it was crumbling. Witnesses began to testify. Friends spoke about Clara's strong personality. "She was fierce and ambitious," one friend said. "But she had a softer side too." Lila listened closely, hoping to understand how Clara's character played into everything. Then it was Lila's turn to take the stand. "I loved Clara's art," she said, her voice shaking. "I never wanted her to be hurt." The prosecutor pressed her. "But you were having an affair with her husband. Isn't that motive enough?" Lila felt tears sting her eyes. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she explained. The room fell silent, and she sensed the weight of everyone's judgment. Family members also testified. Clara's sister spoke about her siblings' dreams and struggles. Clara was passionate. She wanted to be the best, she said, casting light on Clara's complex character. As the trial continued, it became clear that love and jealousy were intertwined. Lila and James's relationship was under scrutiny just as much as the crime itself. Each testimony revealed layers of emotions and motives. Lila knew she had to stay strong. The truth mattered, even in this storm of accusations. She hoped that by the end of the trial, the world would see who she really was. The fight for her, the courtroom buzzed with tension as the verdict was announced. Lila sat nervously, holding her breath. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter," the judge declared. Gasps filled the room. Lila's heart sank. James watched in disbelief. He had hoped for a different outcome. Although he had been implicated in Clara's death, the lack of evidence meant he would not face charges. But that didn't ease his guilt. The judge continued. "Lila Green, I hereby sentence you to 5 years in prison." The words felt like a blow. Lila's eyes widened and tears filled her vision. She couldn't believe this was happening. The community reacted with shock. Some were angry, claiming justice had been served. Others felt sympathy for Lila, believing she had not meant to hurt anyone. The division grew even deeper. As Lila was led away, James felt a wave of emotions crash over him. He wanted to reach out to her, to tell her it would be okay, but words failed him. She looked back at him, her eyes filled with sadness. In that moment, James faced his own demons. He felt ashamed and alone. The public shaming weighed heavily on him. He had to confront the truth of his past and how it had led to this moment. Lila's absence would leave a void in his life. He knew he had to find a way to move forward, but the road ahead felt dark and uncertain. Love had turned into a nightmare, and they were both left to deal with the consequences. What happens after the dust settles? Can love heal after so much pain? In the end, Lila faced her time in prison, while James dealt with the fallout of their choices. Their love had been tested, and now they both had to find their way in a changed world. Healing would take time, but they held on to hope for the future. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey.